right, good day.
How's it
May
going?
21st. We have Tony Pellegrino in the house. And we're going to be talking about different things. We've got Liberty Storm coming up in Sonora on June 1st. Want to start off with that?
Yes, Liberty Storm. Okay, this is the caption on the flyer. Join us to mobilize and unify in order to remediate and reconcile our freedoms with fresh strategies. Okay, this is what we need to do. The purpose of the meeting is to pull together, get into unity with the community, and then find out what are the issues there in Sonora that the people want to remediate there, and we have a good strategy for that. We don't want to give everything up. Okay, and then so we're going to teach people tested methods on draining your local swamp, enforcing your constitutionally protected rights, putting public officials on notice, and effectively fighting back on government overreach. I don't know if there's any government overreach out there, Ty, but I think there might be. And to be awakening, this is the key of everything. To be awakened to your identity as one of we the people and how to assert that power. Okay. So that's the key. People don't know who they are, because if they knew who they are, they wouldn't be putting up with half the crap that that government throws at one another or at us, basically. So we need to get identity. We're going to impart that. We're going to explain that. We're going to teach people how to write affidavits, because an unrebutted affidavit in your case or in your controversy or instant matter is facts on the record if they cannot rebut your affidavit of truth. And then we're going to teach how to do lawful notification letters, which that means we're putting public servants, public serpents, whatever you want to call them, putting them on notice, basically. And, you know, to an extreme extent, this is going to be introducing them to who their boss is, which would be us. And we might want to ask those questions to our public officials. Have you ever been a primary defendant in a federal lawsuit? Because we can help you with that. You got to take your instructions from we the people. We're done with asking and begging. We're telling you these are our rights. And if you keep on infringing upon them, you're going to have to answer to we the people. Okay.
And how did you get started in studying law? What started you down this path?
Yeah, it all started with I got invited to a conference, you know, similar to the one I'm hosting. I got invited. Someone's like, you got to go check this out, man. It's just more than just like a law seminar and studying statutes and, you know, just the dryness of all the complexities and details of law. And I went to this conference, and they started talking about identity. What is our status? And then they were talking about jurisdiction. How does the law apply to you? And they started out by teaching the first 10 Bill of Rights. And once you're studying the Bill of Rights by people who are actually know how to teach it, it applies to everyday life, whether you're renting a hotel room, driving down the road, private property rights, if you're in a hospital, if your kid has a problem at school or at the, you know, any areas of life. So the Bill of Rights protects us, keeping and bearing arms, due process. So it was like it really hit home, and like something arose in me, Ty. It's like I stood up on the inside. I'm like, oh, wow, this is what we the people means. And the law supports it. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And so once I started studying basic constitutional principles, I'm like, I just was hungry to start learning more and more. And you know, then I was like, end up being blessed with like the best mentors in law. Like I had some really good schooling from people, from individuals. And so, you know, that's what got me started.
Who were some of your mentors?
That first conference I went to was the guy's name was Fred Gutierrez, Ty, and he had such a cool family. Him and his wife Nina Gutierrez and their sons were all part of the team there. They were called WeStudyLaw.org was their website, which is down. But so they were kind of like an equipping organization where they would train people on how to do federal lawsuits like Title 42, Section 1983. You know, they had different types of courses. You know, who are you and how does the law apply to you? They started out in basic courses, and then they offered advanced courses, similar kind of like what we're doing. We're equipping and edifying and building up and empowering people to assert their rights and how to defend them. So we need to learn how to enforce them. And if people were trying to take them away, what we need to do about it. And so, and then I had another great mentor, Fred Kelly Grant. He authored a really cool book called Justice My Ass, and it had a donkey on it with just scales. And so he was an attorney for 55 years. He was an attorney for a couple governors. He prosecuted organized crime in Baltimore, like in the 70s, the mafia, and he had a hit put on him, and he's beat all the alphabet agencies and federal courts through coordination, and he was just really a seasoned litigator and an attorney. So I was really blessed to have him. And another guy, Christopher Hallett, was the first guy to introduce me to remonstrances and how to file a lawsuit into your legislative body, which is a different branch from the judicial where you'd normally file a lawsuit. And so I got some mentoring from Chris Hallett. And so it was pretty well-rounded. And, I'm always trying to learn. Not one person is going to have everything in law, as you know, it's so vast. And that we just need to keep on learning, and we got to take our country back.
So is that mostly constitutional law, any common law mentors? Or do they also
yeah, well, the Constitution is common law, which you know, and basically studying case law, common law. I didn't have a lot of common law mentors. I watched a guy online, Carl Miller. Did you ever hear of him?
Yeah.
The older guy, he always wears a baseball cap, and he taught a lot about Constitution and common law. And a lot of common law that I've learned is like really law principles and fact and in truth. And you got to be careful and when you're going to spend the time doing that, because a lot of these judges, they're like lawyers in black robes. They study statutory law. They don't understand a lot of common law or constitutional law. So, what's effective? What do you want to use to win? Because we can be right and actually lose a case. Unfortunately, the way our court system's set up is they're looking at everything not in black and white, but legal theories. So please give us a legal theory and add case law to convince us that you have a claim of action here and that you're entitled to relief. So you kind of got to play the game, the corporate game between the de facto structure of the courts. And we got to understand that I don't believe that we have common law jurisdiction unless you have an Article 3 court, which you need to ask for an Article 3 judge when you go to federal court. But a lot of these state courts, as you well know with your research, Ty, that these people are not only de facto, but really outside of lawful authority with the proper bonds and sworn and signed oath of offices. I mean, it's pretty crazy what we got going on right now.
Yeah, California and Nevada, and also in other states, we're finding that out with some of the other movements going on with other groups, bonds for the win, stuff like that. What about highlights? You got some big wins?
Recently, I did a remonstrance to the California State Senate. Mm-hmm. And, I was hearing about all this gender bending legislation, the transgender affirmation bill, AB 957, which was basically telling you that, if you have religious moral values and your child wants to change his gender as young as 12 years old, that if you don't affirm that, and it gets reported, let's say, to a hospital or to a school or some government agency, Child Protective Services, that bill would give the state authority to come in and take your child from you and place it into a affirming atmosphere in a home, to where they'll cut the 12-year-old's penis off and do gender surgery and do a mastectomy on young 12-year-old girls and start injecting them with chemicals. And it's just insanity. What was considered under normal psychiatric evaluation is it's called mental illness. If you don't know who you are, and the worst part about it is these kids, we all had trouble discovering who we are when we're growing up, and the hormones are shifting and the different influences. And, it's just like a tattoo. Once you get a tattoo, it's kind of permanent unless you cover it up. But once these kids go through these surgeries, trying to reverse it and getting the chemicals out of your body is going to be another problem. So I kind of felt called to write a transgender challenge. It was called a remonstrance to the Senate. And I basically filed a federal lawsuit in the remonstrance, telling them not only is this an unconstitutional law bill that violates First Amendment, Religious Freedom Act, First Amendment protections, and Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment covers parental rights and privacy rights. And so it was First and Ninth Amendment violations. So I told the Senate that if you pass this bill, the bill shouldn't even be voted on because it's unconstitutional. But if you pass the bill, I can't tell you how to vote, but I'm basically going to sue. And then I put the federal lawsuit in the remonstrance. And then Gavin Newsom, when he got the bill, the Senate actually enacted it. And so they signed it, and then he vetoed it. And his press release was that this bill's never going to survive the federal courts, which, I felt like had a big hand in that. Some of the other ones, I had people getting railroaded for trafficking. They had CDB oil from Oregon. It was legal, and they traveled into Idaho. They were being charged. They were actually at a supplements convention in Oregon. And so they got stopped at a traffic stop in Boise, Idaho, and it's illegal there. So they tried giving this one guy 10 years trafficking, and we got him 1 year unsupervised probation. And then I was consulting with some of the people on the Bundy standoff case and the wildlife refuge occupation, that the Bundys were involved, and some of their defendants, or they called them co-conspirators because they were being tried for conspiracy in like up to 100 years. And they were holding those guys similar to the J6ers, the January 6th political prisoners. They'd put these people in isolation, and they would refuse them their right to a speedy trial. And they kind of kept those guys, behind bars without their trial, like over a year and a half, which was pretty crazy. But a lot of the people that didn't make deals actually won their cases. I had a claim against the guy for $1 billion. He was being sued for the closure of a gold mine. And so we were victorious on that. Like I said, we got a lot of smaller cases, but we have several Title 42s active right now. We got we're suing 9 counties all over the country and like 6 different states because of either Second Amendment violations, during COVID overreach, getting fired because they wouldn't get the COVID's mRNA gene therapy Frankenstein shot. And people were getting arrested on the beach for not having, permission to be out there during the shutdown. They were calling it a toxic zone, the beach over there in Santa Cruz. What's else on the board here? Second Amendment, false arrest. We're suing a prosecutor. And then the other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to impeach 2 federal judges. And so we're filing a remonstrance in the Congress to remove 2 people from the benches. But yeah, I mean, the biggest financially one was only like $80,000, a couple $25,000 settlements. But the bigger ones are that protects our rights against these government actors, and I think that's what motivates me. I'm not getting rich doing this, obviously. But what we're doing is we're changing the atmospheres in these regions by holding these peoples to the fire and going into the federal courts and actually removing people for office. Just real quick, Union Township, we filed a federal lawsuit. My sister's action there, we moved 11 out of 12 people out of office. And that story's on the website if people want to check it in under my bio.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. And that first case was with Scott Weiner. Is that his name? Weiner? Scott Weiner?
Scott Weiner. Yeah, we plan on doing a Weiner roast. Yeah, he co-authored the transgender affirmation bill. And I put him on notice, before he voted. And that's how you get people, because legislators have what's called qualified immunity. And it's like a loan. You have to qualify for it. But pretty much they have unrestricted authority to act legislatively and constitutionally according to their oath of office. So what I did was I showed him the law on that remonstrance. I put him on notice. It was a 12-page document telling him that he was violating his oath of office. So ignorance of the law was one step, which might give them qualified immunity. But once you show them the law, put them on notice, and explain to them, you're accountable whether you understand it or not. Here it is, you've been served. And then you go and violate your oath of office after that. That's called deliberate indifference. And I believe that he will lose his qualified immunity when he gets his summons to basically answer a federal lawsuit, which is going to happen pretty soon.
Okay, what is an alternative law process?
Okay, alternative law processes are kind of like with coordination. I was telling you, my one mentor, Fred Kelly Grant, he started teaching me how to do coordination, and that's going to be brought up a little bit at our seminar here in Oakdale on this Thursday. What a remonstrance is you're addressing legislative authorities, and what coordination is you're going into legislative authorities and you're instructing them on a policy that benefits the people and the environment of the local region. And so the alternative process is okay, we're coming in under the National Environmental Policy Act. Whoever sues for that, you never hear about that. It's more alternative. And what it is you don't need lawyers. You need a hearing officer, and you need a legislative board that we're going to invoke coordination, and coordination invites state and federal agencies to come locally. And I think we could use this to restore our Second Amendment here. Not that we've lost it, but people get the wool pulled over their eyes that they can't carry here in California, conceal or open carry. And so that's, unless you know your rights, you just definitely don't want to get arrested and then have to deal with it in court. But we can restore that through coordination, because there's 4 different elements of the environment. There's the natural environment with the trees and the water. You can't poison the water or just cut down trees, your neighbor's trees, or we got to take care of our natural resources and within reason. But the other environment is the human environment. We get to go on these trails and hiking places and go boating and use the lands for our use also, which has been lopsided with the most of the environmental movement. So you got the human environment, then you got the economic environment. So what's financially going to kill an entire region over a small other environmental issues where the balance of hardships don't weigh out. It's like, we're going to save this tadpole and we're going to have hundreds of thousands of acres. We're going to turn it into a dust bowl because we're going to shut your water off. So this is the whole thing with the water rights, the COVID, when they shut everything down. So we could create our safety policies too. Too many migrants coming across the border in California. You're not going to have a right to keep and bear arms and protect yourselves when the Supreme Court says that the illegals can carry guns of recent. So it's just, we need to learn these alternative methods, and the lawyers aren't doing the alternative methods because they're officers of the court.
Right.
They're not one of the
alternative method on that note would be becoming a national rather than a citizen, because the Mexican immigrants are actually nationals, and they turns out are having more rights than the citizens.
Yeah, they are not U.S. citizens. So once they come across the border, they get the supreme law of the land. They're on the land. I just can't go up to an illegal immigrant and say, "Hey, show me some ID," unless there's a crime, because we have protections. Where you forfeit, security. In order to have, if I'm going to have security, I'm going to forfeit liberty. So people aren't. You just can't infringe on someone. Show me your ID if they're across the border. That's why we need strong border control. But once they're on the land, so they're basically a non-U.S. citizen, which means U.S. citizens don't have a right to keep and bear arms, because U.S. citizens aren't the people. And that's where the whole legalese of how our whole law system's rigged against us. It's the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and it's mandatory language, shall not be infringed. Well, when they went to finally the Supreme Court, the higher court, with this illegal immigrant, well, he's not a U.S. citizen. So if you're going to claim U.S. citizenship, then you have privileges and immunities. You don't have rights. So the illegal immigrant has more rights than a U.S. citizen, because you're operating under permission and privilege is. Like, it's a privilege to do certain things. That means you have to ask permission. So yeah, we need to know the difference of who's one of we the people. And I've created a status affidavit that my mentor basically passed along to me, which is a 2-page document in which it describes who are we as one of we the people. And basically, when I'm in my status, in my private status, I'm a private citizen, meaning I'm one of we the people. I'm an American citizen, not a U.S. citizen. And so, because a U.S. citizen is an artificial person, it's your straw man, it's a corporation, and corporations, Walmart don't have a right to keep and bear arms, you know. So that's how diminished a U.S. citizen is, because a U.S. citizen only gets privileges and immunities. And that might help you if you go to the American embassy over there in Iran or Iraq, or you're in a third world country. You might want to claim your U.S. citizenship, because that's the privilege that you have, is that you'll get the backing of the establishment de facto corporation, you know, which might be helpful. But when you're on this soil, you really don't want to use that U.S. citizenship unless it's benefiting you in that status, which you should have the right to either opt in or opt out. Like a cop, when he's on the beat, when he's in his patrol car, a police officer, he's in his official public capacity. But when he's off the clock, he's, you know, not wearing the gun and badge, and he's a private person or one of the people. So basically, that's the way the U.S. citizenship works. Use it when you're in a public capacity, but when you're in a private capacity and you want to keep and bear arms, don't claim that U.S. citizenship, because they're going to ask you, well, do you have a concealed carry permit? And so CCP is what it sounds like to me, like Chinese Communist Party. It's ridiculous. We have to ask permission to protect ourselves. And there we go again. The environment is becoming unsafe when we're hearing more and more of these migrants shooting, you know, people who have who are afraid to keep and bear arms, so they're defenseless.
Right. Well, thanks for the updates, and we'll be posting more updates. We're just getting this thing off the ground and getting some our first speaking engagements are coming up, and look forward to updating.
So let's get the date. Liberty Storms, June 1st, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And then we're going to be in Southern California. We're going to be down in San Diego on the 30th. And I think the flyer's on the website there. That's called Open the Heavens. There'll be
June 28th through 29th.
Yeah, Freedom Law School and Mary Crowley Ministry are co-sponsoring that event. And I think SG and On is going to be there. Wano Saban, Sheila Holm, Mary Crowley. It's her event. She'll be speaking, obviously. I'll be speaking down there, and then we'll be speaking at Victory Park in Pasadena the following day on Sunday at the end of the month. So yeah, we have a very busy June. And then I'll also be up in Boise, Idaho, in Eagle, Idaho, actually, which is going to be June 18th and 19th at the old saloon schoolhouse. It's called Bravitas. It's a bar over there in Eagle. So we'll be there at the 18th and 19th, and I'll put a flyer up for that also.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, Ty. Thanks.
All right.